a big shot, unless we talking about hip-hop. Bad at TikTok, but I'll make movies like Hitchcock. Challenge Mitch, you'll barely make it like trick shots. Check your wristwatch, it's time for you all to quit, stop trying me. I'ma be honest, I'm pretty glad no labels eyeing me. I'm independent and I don't want nobody buying me.
Yo, what up everybody, this is Mitch Darrell, and today, people have been saying you should do more talking videos, Mitch, and I said, you know what, you're right, because that's what I started off this channel doing, and that's what I need to return to, and I love talking. Sometimes I'll be sitting and I'm like, I really want to talk about this subject, but I don't want to just talk into the ether. Let me talk to some people. I rhymed accidentally, but we're going to talk about a kind of controversial topic today, the N-word. No, that's actually not even really the topic. It's just kind of like a doorway into a greater topic. So to introduce the topic, the reason this is even a discussion is because there's plenty of CHH blogs out there on Instagram. I try to rock with all of them. I try to follow all the ones that I find because while I'm not a blog, I'm still kind of media, so I like to support CHH media. But there's a newer one that came out around the end of 2022, I think. I could be wrong. I know, middle of 2022, called the CHH Enthusiasts. And they're really dope. They have these dope graphics, and they'll report on the news, just different things that are talked about in the space, and I really rock with it. Recently, he did a poll saying, essentially, should artists who use, in this case, the N-word in their raps be considered CHH? And the poll was kind of split. It was close to 50-50. And so he said he was going to make a post about it. And so we did. And it's a really well-made post. He said, these artists do not belong. This is his opinion. It says, these artists do not belong in the Christian hip-hop genre. And it was Paris Correa's Foggie and Caleb Mitchell. And he goes on to explain that, being Christian means following the Bible, the Word of God, and that essentially, you're not supposed to let corrupting words come out of your mouth. People typically are saying, cussing, curse words, all that type of stuff, right? And there are examples of Foggie, Paris, and Caleb all using the N-word, and then I believe there might have been one other word, but the N-word seemed to be the focus of this post. And that started a lot of discourse, a lot of conversation. I actually had a personal DM conversation with him, and it makes me, I want to start on the N-word and then kind of move from there, because again, that's not really the topic of this. The N-word is a weird word because obviously it used to be used, spelled differently, in a very racist and a demeaning, dehumanizing fashion towards people who look like me, right? And over the years, as we've gained freedom, as time has gone by, it's been kind of flipped. The spelling's been changed. The meaning of it, for the most part, has been changed by most people that still use it today, right? It's typically still a word that Black people use in a positive way, in a lot of different ways, but in a positive way, and a lot of times, white people still don't use it. It's kind of one of those things where it's flipped because it used to be used negatively. Black people flipped it for ourselves. White people typically aren't permitted to say it, we'll say, in a street sense. So what interests me in people saying that using the N-word in Christian hip hop is the same as cussing, or saying, like, let's say the F word, right, is that most everyone would agree that words like the F word or the S word are not ever used to mean like positive things. You wouldn't say that to someone's face and them be okay with it, for the most part. Whereas the N-word is used specifically in the Black community in a lot of ways, but one of those ways is kind of like an endearing, my brother, or just a person, general person type of term. So to make the argument that the N-word immediately means negative or bad or demeaning or corrupt speech, I don't think is as cut and dry as just saying, well, that's a bad word, and so it's corrupt. I don't think that's accurate, because words have different meanings to different people, right? Now, the greater context of this conversation is much less about the N-word and more so about kind of putting strict rules on CHH and kind of trying to kick people out. Not to say that he was trying to do that, but trying to say this person belongs, this person doesn't, this shouldn't count. CHH is a beautiful space because there are so many different artists that make so many different types of music for so many different types of Christians or believers. People early on their walk, people who don't know God yet, people who are, youth group stuff, people who are devout Christians, right? There's music for all of those people. Paris Correa is a good example of an artist who makes music for people who I believe might be earlier in their walk or might not know much about God at all, but like that street type of sound more, right? He just did a song with Star Ringo, I believe. Star Ringo's another example of that type of artist. And so to say to minimize it by saying because you say this one word in some of your songs or have said it, you shouldn't be making Christian hip hop, I think is not considering nuance, right? Can you still be effective in the space of Christian hip hop using a word that might be uncomfortable for some, but might be seen as normal for the people that they're rapping to? That doesn't make a lot of sense. If it's not for you, then it's not for you. Does that make sense? So if Paris is making music for people who are going to resonate with that word and they don't find it offensive or a bad thing, then if it bothers you, then I would say don't listen to that. I would say don't listen to that artist, but don't try to take them out of a space where they can have a positive impact. That's it's minimizing way too much. Okay. To say you can't be Christian hip hop because you say this, and that's bad to me, even though it's not bad to the people you're rapping to, who you're making music for, who you're helping in a lot of ways. There was a comment of somebody who specifically said, Paris's music helps me in my walk with God. It's for me. If it's not for you, it's not for you, right? That's why it's fine to have opinions. It's fine to feel, that certain words, this is bad to me, but specifically that word is such a complicated word that I don't think it's fair to at least not have the greater conversation of how can it be helpful? What positive are you having using that? Or is it just, this is just so negative, and so there's no positive you could possibly have in this, and it offends me, so it probably offends other people, and you shouldn't be in the space. I don't agree with that. And on a deeper note, CHH is such an interesting thing because yes, it's like a subgenre and it's like a heading, but we like to treat it like a club sometimes. Where like Paris, I believe, considers himself CHH. Foggie Raw, I don't think does anymore. CHH adjacent is the word we use because he was part of CHH. Now he probably doesn't like to be binded with that term. Same as Caleb Mitchell. But they can still impact people. They can still speak about God in their raps. They can still be associated with CHH. I think there's not a problem with that. But I also don't think somebody like Paris, who claims CHH, I believe, should be cast out because he uses the N-word, which he believes in his heart God does not have a problem with him saying. I think you can make an argument that God wouldn't have a problem with you saying it because heart posture, what it means to certain people, the way you're saying it matters. It's not just that word is sin. That's not how it works. There's a bunch of words that you could argue if you said them a certain way are sin. Hella. You could darn, dang. There's a bunch of words that you could say, well, that's a bad word. You shouldn't say that. But we don't do that. We like to kind of nitpick certain words for some reason, and the N-word is one of those words because it's so kind of polarizing, right? So overall, like I said, it's not really an N-word conversation. It's much more just about recognizing people's value in the space of CHH, recognizing that not every artist is making music for the same groups of people. Some people are making music for youth groups. Some people are making music for people who aren't super far along in their walk. Some people are making music for people who have never been spoken to about Christ ever. But they like rap music and they're from a certain area and they resonate with a certain sound and certain speech. It just because that doesn't resonate with you doesn't mean that it can't help others, right? It doesn't mean that they should be kicked out of a genre, kicked out of the potential good that they can do for the kingdom, right, through their music. So, again, this wasn't about me trying to attack the page that posted it. I rock with the page. I rock with the CHH enthusiasts. The comments were kind of crazy. They kind of got all over the place. But I felt like it's a valid discussion. No matter how you feel specifically about the N-word, or certain words in general, I feel like a deeper conversation is needed about the impact certain artists have with certain groups, certain vernacular, certain slang, heart posture, that artist's individual relationship with God, all that. Instead of just saying, you said that word, you should be out. You shouldn't be Christian hip hop. That's not Christ-like, because you don't know that. There was the argument of like, well, Christ wouldn't have said this word. I don't know if we really know that. It's one of those things that we like to box words in as that's a cuss word. That's a bad word. That word is bad. It's not a clean word, when there's plenty of words we say that aren't necessarily inherently good words. They just don't have the stigma behind them. Like that's something like the N-word has, So just a little peek into a greater conversation. I'd love to see the comments, as long as you guys can be cordial. Because again, I need to make it clear, I'm not attacking CHH enthusiasts. I really rock with him. You actually should go follow him. And I'm not saying that, I don't say the N-word in my music. I don't think that it's a word that I would use in my songs. But I also don't want to say somebody who is using it can't be CHH, that's a rule that you broke, because that's a slippery slope. There's a ton of different rules. There's context for a lot of different things. That's the thing. I think people need to look way closer at context, at the deeper meanings behind things, instead of just cut and dry. You said this, you're gone, you know? So I appreciate y'all a ton. I love talking. I went for 10 minutes. It felt like 3 minutes. I love doing these. So I appreciate y'all a ton. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are. Go follow CHH Enthusiast. Go follow Paris Cruz. Go follow Foggie Rock. Go follow Caleb Mitchell. They're all dope. Go follow me. I appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you haven't. Praise God. Peace.